'cause you love rugby. So what you think of this tax fee?
Right, okay. Podcast with a new person. Mr. Rhys Edmonds. The infamous Rhys Edmonds.
Mate, the number one pod listener.
Number one pod listener. Worst shouts ever as well.
Oh, I don't know about that. That's coming from my arch nemesis, that is. my real arch nemesis.
Yeah.
I have nightmares about that bloke.
Sean and Rhys have never been in the same room together.
We haven't. I don't think we could. I think we'd get Armageddon, to be honest with you.
Do you reckon one day we could do like all three of us, or would it just turn into...
Oh, I don't know about that. Be proper scraps, I reckon.
So, this episode, do you want to tell the idea behind it and why we decided to do it?
Well, how long ago was it now? A few months. One of our good friends, Sam, came up with the idea of potentially going to the Heineken Cup final, as it was in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, a stadium that we wanted to go to for a long time. And you know, you had the great idea of, well, why don't we do a Heineken Cup winners 15?
Yeah.
Which any 15 I'm up for. But yeah, it was a great one, and it was one that really sort of boggled my brain a little bit, mate. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I like we were gonna try and do it on the train on the way up, and it was just like, it'd just be too chaotic. Just we had beers on the way up, didn't we? And it descended into chaos from the get go. So yeah, we decided to do it properly. And it was a fucking sick final, and that stadium was amazing as well.
Top 3 stadiums I've ever been to.
The atmosphere was amazing. Like, fair play, like the length. It was obviously it was in the UK, so the Leinster fan. It was mainly Leinster fans, and they were so loud, and they proper set it off in there.
There was one point where I was actually sat next to Rob, one of our mates, and I just thought he was that drunk. He was mouthing words to me. Couldn't hear him. The atmosphere was that loud.
They had all the fireworks going off, and it was a prop.
Yeah.
And that stadium, it was like a dodgy little street, wasn't it? It was like City Road or something.
Yeah.
And you turned the corner, and it was just like, what the fuck?
It was literally as if like an alien spaceship had just come and plonked it in the middle of some suburb in London. It was incredible. What a stadium!
And we got tickets mega cheap as well, because we booked them before anyone knew it was in the final, and just up and down in the day. Yeah, it was a proper day. Went to a Tottenham pub, didn't we?
The Tottenham fan pub, which was more expensive than the stadium for beers, which was
they knew exactly what they were doing.
But it was just everywhere we went. It was just such a good atmosphere, good crowd there. You know, as you usually get, no trouble. Everyone was, singing together, drinking together. It was great. What an atmosphere! We're looking to do it again now because of that.
Yeah, but it's in Cardiff, which is a shit trip into town.
Literally, we booked it, and 2 weeks later, they announced that it was in Cardiff, the next one. So we were like, oh, great.
But and it went extra time as well.
Yeah, extra time. I think it's happened before. I'll mention that a little bit later on. It has.
Okay.
Yeah, in the early years, extra time Heineken Cup final. But what a game as well.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? We could have got a bit unlucky with it being a terrible game, but it was just back and forth. It was incredible.
Yeah, I like the first half. It was like 60, 70 minutes. It was like there was no tries, and I was thinking this is going to be like a 6-3 or like a 9-6, or it was going to be shit. But then a yellow card just changed the game, didn't it?
Yeah.
Yellow cards. It was a red card, the first one on there. It was a yellow first.
Yellow for low, and then
then it just erupted then, didn't it? There was a little bit more space out there. It was a sick game.
Yeah, it was great.
Toulouse, we got our Toulouse top up. I took this up with me as well. So was I wearing this?
You were. Well, Dad, to be honest with you, when I first came in, I was going to say I was going to be very disappointed that you weren't wearing this beautiful retro piece.
Yeah, it is. Peugeot as well.
Peugeot. I mean, that is just Toulouse, isn't it?
Who does it most remind you of, that shirt?
Oh, mate, that's Yannick Yozian.
Mate, I was thinking the exact same. Or Vincent Clerc as well.
Literally, that is him.
And they need to add an extra. There's probably 1 star on there. Is it 4?
No, they're on 6 now, I think.
6?
Yeah, another 3 stars, yeah.
We'll mention some Toulouse
proper
players.
Team.
So, rules of the Heineken Cup 15. So, we're obviously considering everyone who's played in the Heineken Cup, but they've got to have a winner's medal, yeah?
Yeah.
So they've got to have won the Heineken Cup.
A lot harder than I thought. Do you know, I think I changed my team 6 or 7 times because I was like, yeah, he's definitely won it.
Yeah.
And then when I did, and then I looked, I was like, oh, I can't believe he hadn't won it.
There's teams like Biarritz and stuff who've all got really close a few times, and never won it. And there's obviously players who've been amazing in it. And I was looking at like appearances and tries. Who've scored loads of tries, but obviously never won it.
Never won it, never got over the line.
And it's quite a small pool if you think about it, because Leinster had a dominant phase. Toulon had a dominant phase, Toulouse, so
Saracens as well.
Yeah, and like those teams change, but like, so they're the rules. They've got to have a winner's medal. Apart from that, anyone is fair game.
Indeed.
Okay, so should we start at number 1 because that's a good place to start?
Yeah.
Do you want to go first? New to the podcast.
I will. I'm going to start with my honourable mention.
Right. Actually, before we start, let me say, we've got the opportunity here to name a fucking sick team. So let's like the best players who've ever played rugby. Let's not let this team descend into fucking chaos and put people in for memes.
I have got so many memes, but I have tried to put them as my honourable mentions. But there's some who have just got to stay because of the memes.
Okay.
But the first one, now, when I first started this team, I was getting worried at the lack of Welsh players in it. I'm going to be honest. But actually, when I did my research, there was a fair few. And one man who I didn't realise had won it was Gethin Jenkins.
Yeah, he is my honourable mention.
Yeah, on the bench, Toulon, I think it was 2013, I think it was.
Yeah, he only played...
In Twickenham, I think the final.
Yeah, he only played a handful of games for him.
Yeah, he did.
20-odd games.
He did. Sheridan was the first choice at the time.
Yeah.
Which, as a Welsh fan, I couldn't believe, because Gethin Jenkins is twice the player. But Gethin Jenkins, as soon as I saw that, I couldn't believe it. It's just sort of swept under the radar a little bit, isn't it? So he was my honourable mention just for how good of a player he was. What a player! Literally, like on the back row as a front row, wasn't
it? We talked about him in detail in the style points one. Yeah. Just like probably the most fun loose head ever. Had it all. Like I loved him.
I remember that try against Namibia in the World Cup.
It
was almost as if like I can die happy having seen him do that after all the graft he puts in on turnovers, scrums, his defence. You know, that try was just absolutely bliss. I don't think you could believe it. If you look at him when he's running,
what I love about it, he does like a dummy kick in it as well. he fakes to kick and then goes.
I think he dummied himself. I don't think he knew what he was doing.
But his stint at Toulon was very short. Was it a season?
If that. Well, I mean, I think it was, but
sandwiched in between.
One season. Look, 21 appearances. You know, when you add in, you know, cup matches, Heineken Cup and league games, that's not many.
Yeah, definitely he's a good shout.
Yeah.
Is he your honourable mention? Who's your...
Right, so there's a story behind my main pick here.
Okay, go.
But he is a very good player as well, and my pick is Graham Rowntree.
Okay.
So Graham Rowntree, and the story behind this is when I was a kid, I was watching the 2003 World Cup final with my old man. And I remember him coming up on the screen, and my old man said, "Can you see him there on the screen?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Look at the state of his ears." And he said,
"He has got the worst ears.
He's got the worst ears I've ever seen."
Yeah,
and that is the reason for him being my starting player, is the fact that he's got the worst ears I've ever seen. If you had to literally describe a forward or at least a prop to someone, he is the man that comes up. His ears are getting worse.
I tell you what though, he was a good player.
Oh, he was, absolutely.
Like that Leicester team was nuts, wasn't it? I've got a few picks on our Leicester team. As much as, you know, Sean won't pick English players so that much, but like that, as boring as they were, I sort of appreciate him a little bit more now.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
Like, you know, they were just so dominant, and like winning European Cups hard enough, but they used to do it all the time, didn't they? And he's a great coach now as well.
Well, he's coached England, obviously the Lions. He was, I think he was on the 2009, maybe 2013. And obviously he's coaching Munster now, I think it is.
Coaching Munster.
But he was the reason that I didn't become a forward. My dad said to me, literally, do you want to look like him? So that is why I ended up venturing into the Pretty Boys.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, my pick, and we'll see if there's any. I bet whenever we look for highlights and you look for props, it's just like Graham Rowntree yellow card, Graham Rowntree disgusting red card.
That's a sign of a good player, person.
Yeah.
That's what you want.
My pick is the... Well, I had Gethin Jenkins an honourable mention. He's another one which I didn't realise had won it with Toulon. And I went back and I was like, fucking hell. like fair play. Like his CV is unbelievable. You know, add that to it as well as all the Lions tours and Grand Slams and stuff. But somebody who's probably got just as good a CV is Cian Healy. And
definitely.
Cian Healy is actually, well, he came on in the final, didn't he? We went to watch.
He's got to be mid-30s.
Yeah,
or
I think he's won 4 Heineken Cups.
Yeah.
And he's the all-time leading appearances in Heineken Cup history as well. So when you think of that sort of ilk of player, like...
Oh, absolutely.
And I think, you know, I you know, what he's done for Ireland and how many appearances he's had, 130 caps. Obviously, Leinster through and through. I think he's won maybe 4 Heineken Cups, which is just absolutely ridiculous.
Bonkers. Yeah, just a trophy magnet in the end.
And to stay fit and play as much as someone like that in the front row is just...
Well, that's what I was going to say. It goes back to the old saying, doesn't it? That your best ability is your availability.
Yeah,
to have a longevity in such a physical position like he has is just absolutely bonkers. You know, 129 caps for Ireland. Do you know what I mean? That's nuts.
Yeah, and he's still going.
It's still going.
Does he get in the Ireland team now? Probably
no,
not so much.
He doesn't get in as much now, but I mean, he's in and around it.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean?
And I'm sure he came on in that final.
And he pushes the performance mind as well. You know, as if he's just making up the numbers. He's still a cracking player.
He's 36. Like, I know that longevity isn't as much now anymore. Like, props used to be able to go to late 30s back in the day. You know, he's probably maybe got another couple of years in him. Probably another couple of chances to win some trophies as well.
Oh, definitely.
All right then. So who do we reckon?
We've got to go with Cian Healy, I think. Yeah, I'm a big fan of his as well. To be honest with you, I've always liked him. I like the way he plays. I think just proper tough.
Massive
and I think one of the first props is sort of, I think along with Gethin Jenkins are sort of transformed props, that just weren't seen as these scrummagers and don't do anything else.
Look at his physique. He is just an absolute unit.
Like, he is Brutus Beefcake. Look at him.
Proper.
Absolute unit.
Yeah, great player. We'll go with Cian Healy then for one. Right, hooker. I've got 2 down, and my honourable mention, I want to show a little bit of love to the Italians because they never do get any love. Leonardo Gialdini. I'm sure, I can't remember who he won it with. Did he win it with Toulon? Yeah. Obviously, these Italian players, they go through the ringer. They don't often get to win lots of trophies. But he's somebody who, again, he's played so many times, over 100 caps for Italy. Toulouse he won it with. And yeah, you can see how his career goes a little bit. He starts off in Italy, and then they realise, fucking hell, he's a player, and they scoop him out of there. Goes to England, and then goes over to France, wins it all. And he's a good player. Like, you always notice him when you're playing against Italy. He's one of their standout performers. Still going now, touching 40. So like
getting longevity.
Yeah, and I wanted to show a little bit of love for the Italians. They don't often get lots of love, and especially the front row. Like they have produced some really good front row players.
Oh, they have.
Like Castro Giovanni and stuff. Yeah. And he's one who's gone on to
Cicero, their loose head as well back in the day. What a player he was. Yeah, they do. It's nice to see though now that obviously with Treviso building the squad, they have the under-20s coming through.
Yeah,
it looks like they're starting to stick around in Italy because, like you said, it used to just be you're a good Italian player, we'll have you in France, we'll have you in England. Yeah. It's almost as if they just sort of took them away. But it's nice now to see that they're sticking about.
Yeah. Like you said, Benetton and Zebra have turned a cool. Well, especially Benetton. They've been.
Oh yeah, they're quality.
But the one I went for, and this is going to be such an unliked opinion, but Jerry Flannery. Now I know who you're going to pick, and I'm keeping him in the locker because I've got another podcast coming up.
Yeah.
But Jerry Flannery, obviously from the other side of Ireland, from Munster, from the red side, but like. I'll always remember those like Heineken Cup battles between Leinster and Munster.
Yeah.
Like they'd always end up meeting each other, whether it be quarterfinals, semi-finals. And he was always a really good performer. And you've seen how he's gone on then to be a really good coach as well.
Oh, he's a cracking coach. They hold him in such high regard, the Harlequins, don't they?
Yeah, and I've watched some of his like little coaching stuff, and I'm just like you can tell he just lives and breathes rugby. And he was a consistent performer. Maybe not the most exciting of players, and probably not the most exciting of men. But yeah, I went for him. He obviously won it a few times with Munster. But yeah, I don't think my 2 choices of hooker are the most.
I don't think he had a flare bone in his body.
Definitely not.
Absolutely
Definitely
none.
not.
But hard as nails.
Yeah,
just hard as nails.
Yeah, hard as nails. He would die for the cause, like. But yeah.
I don't think he ever threw an offload. Like, I don't think I ever seen him through one.
No, he was banned from offloads.
Yeah, just head down, arse up, straight into contact. Love that. Right, should we move on to mine?
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a couple of honourable mentions. The first one, I'm not going to go into too much detail because I know we came into the scrum cap 15, which was Shalk Brits. Just because what a player. I used to love watching him play.
Yeah, that's
back row
team.
hooker, that Saracens team, yeah, he was incredible. What a player.
Yeah.
And he deserves recognition, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and like...
Deceptively handsome as well, isn't he?
Yeah, he is actually.
He is.
Yeah,
Bit of a silver fox, isn't he?
Yeah, and like...
I like that.
What I liked about him was he was quite undersized for a hooker, but that pack was still so dominant.
Oh, he punched well above, and he punched well above his weight as well. You know, he was like a little pocket rocket, wasn't he? Really, he was great. The second honourable mention that I have, this one's a bit of a memes. It's Rafael Ibanez.
Oh, I loved him. The one-handed throw.
That's exactly right. That man tried to keep the one-handed throw going for as long as he could. He was the only one trying to keep it around. It was almost as if he wouldn't accept that the two-handed was way more accurate.
It was. It wasn't very good either. He was never very good at throwing.
No, he was absolutely terrible. But he just would not change. He was just stuck in his ways, and he would not change. But aside from that, decent player. Went on to coach and manage as well, didn't he, France?
Yeah.
So he was one for me, definitely. I think deserved a mention just for that, just for champion that one-arm throw.
Yeah, I want to see if there's any footage of that throw. Maybe they just thrown it in the pits and just decided it never happened. Here we go, straight away. Chris Wyatt versus Rafael Ibanez. As Sean would say, Chris Wyatt, the one-man riot, fighting Ibanez. Yeah,
love that.
Obviously nails as well.
Yeah,
the one-armed throw, Ibanez. Toulouse obviously won it probably a few times with Toulouse, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
He might have been even captain. I know it would have been Toulouse probably captain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good shout.
Yeah. Honourable mention. Good honourable mention there. Right, number one. Now, this might be seen as a bit of a boring pick, to be honest. And the reasons I got him in, one of them's a meme reason, and one of them is a genuine reason, right? Okay. And that's Jamie George, right?
Yeah, okay.
Sounds boring, but that man has me in floods of tears every time I watch him play. Because he's built like Humpty Dumpty, right? The state on his rig, right? He just doesn't look like he should be good at rugby, but he's quality, right? You look at him and you just think, yeah, there's no way that man is a professional rugby player. But do you know what? I genuinely think he's one of the best set piece hookers of all time.
Yeah.
I think if you look at all the England hookers who have come through, who have not only been banging the door, at club level, I'll give you an example of Curtis Langdon at the moment for Northampton, how well he's playing, and I know there's been numerous other hookers, over the years, and he's always stayed put, and I've always wondered why, and if you look at his set piece, just in the line out, how good he is off a driving maul, scoring, his scrummaging, everything you want in a hooker, he's just absolutely 100% reliable, he's rock solid. And for me, I just think having that hooker is a blessing, to be honest.
Yeah, and he must have won it. How many times did Saracens win it? They won it twice in a row.
They won it twice in a row. Yeah, twice in a row. Yeah, and then they lost the third time.
Yeah, and then they come back.
Yeah,
and win it again,
I think.
Maybe. So yeah, and obviously Lion starter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, class player.
Yeah,
I don't know if we've mentioned him before. I don't think we have actually.
Yeah,
he's a little bit. I bet he's a little bit underrated, and
I think so.
The English team will when he comes towards the end, they'll start realising what a good player they actually had.
Yeah.
But yeah, that fucking Saracens team when they were
they were such a well-oiled machine, weren't they? They were just so clinical.
And he must have displaced Sharp Brits at one point then.
Yeah, because they moved Sharp Brits into the back row. He was playing 6 or 7 to accommodate it. I mean, literally built like Humpty Dumpty, but an absolute gun player, just incredible.
Do you know what? For some reason, I thought you were going to pick somebody who I'm keeping in my locker because I've got a Nails podcast I'm going to do with Sean, right? But I thought you were going to say Trevor Leota.
Oh man, what a player!
I'm not going to talk about Trevor Leota because I think in Nails 15 he needs a whole fucking section.
Yeah, absolutely.
He needs a whole podcast.
Yeah, it wouldn't do him justice if we put him in this one, to be honest with you.
And he wasn't the most amazing player. He was just fucking nuts.
Yeah, it was just Nails.
I think if you're talking about serious high quality players, which I think this team will end up being, I think we'll stick Jamie George in.
Happy days.
He'll never do you wrong, will he?
No. Just ultra solid.
Okay, cool. Right, so I've only got one name for my tight heads.
So
because I really struggled.
So have I. And I got a feeling it might be the same one, Dav.
Okay, so should we say it at the same time on 3? 1, 2, 3.
John Hayes. What a player!
Yeah, well, no, he was. Well, he was. You know when you talk about people with no fucking excitement whatsoever, John Hayes and Robin Backway used to hate him as well. But
if tomato ketchup was a tight end forward,
but from my research, I think he was the second most capped Heineken Cup player of all time, and I think he's from a day gone by, to be honest. It's like he was just a cornerstone, wasn't he? But like one of the most like effective cornerstones it was, like that Adam Jones mould, you just ain't moving him.
He's 6'4", 128 kilos. He was.
Fucking hell.
6'4" for a tight head. That's humongous.
Yeah. He was, and he went, didn't he? Like he was one of the most capped Irish players. Oh my God, it happened. We just saw that Ibanez won through on a different video.
Did we really?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
I'll put this clip in. I'll put this clip in the thing. But yeah, Ibanez. I'm sure. Yeah. There's a one throw. Oh. But yeah, he was. Yeah, John Hayes. I wouldn't say he was a great player, but he was. Yeah, he's going to keep that scrums on.
Yeah,
he's
but that's the thing.
I
think he was great for just being solid, but nothing else. Do you know what I mean? Like again, nothing to his game bar the fact that he just did his job.
Yeah.
The definition of do your job and come off the pitch.
And sometimes, like that's what you just want from your tight head prop. Yeah. You don't want flashiness.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love how I'll link this chat, but in this try he scores because he's just getting off the floor. He's just in the right place at the right time. So like he's just got off the floor and he's ready for an offload.
He's a unit, mind. Yeah, I know we just discussed his height and weight, but looking in there, he was a bit of a scary bloke, to be honest with you.
Massive bloke.
He looks like a bouncer, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Like he does seem like someone you definitely would want to mess with, and to be as like around as long as he was as a tight head prop, he must have been tough as nails.
Oh yeah.
Because like, you know, he was. I'm sure he was the leading Irish caps for a long time as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, well, we'll stick him in because we've got no other fucking options, to be honest. I'm sure there's probably more out there. John Hayes.
I bet Sean's having kittens of the lack of Welsh players that we got at the moment.
I know, maybe we should have gone Gethin or one. Like I'm thinking as well as like Heineken Cup is a thing. Like Gethin Jenkins isn't renowned for being a Heineken Cup rugby player.
No, he's not.
Do you know what I mean?
If you look at all those three players, like you said, the Leinster dynasty, Cian Healy was central to that.
Yeah.
John Hayes, Munster, probably one of the most famous Heineken Cup teams, known for those victories at Thomond Park. He was central to that, and again, Jamie George was Saracen. So yeah, I think right selections there in those 1, 2, and 3. To be honest.
Cool. Okay, so front row done. Second row, whose go was it?
It's your go. Do you want to do the second row as a pairing, or do you want to do them as a separate 4 and 5?
Yeah, go on. I'll do them as a pairing.
Yeah.
Because mine are. Yeah, I've got two. I'll do my honourable mentions first. I've got two honourable mentions, and I'll do my pairing. So, my first one. This is very British, but so I thought we'd have a look at some New Zealanders. But Brad Thorne.
Oh, that's a great shot.
Brad Thorne, obviously an amazing player. Won with Leicester, or did he win with Leinster?
Leinster, I'm pretty sure he did. Yeah.
He was one of those players. He obviously came over pretty late, like quite late in his career. Really, had a pretty good career for New Zealand, didn't he? Played a lot of times for New Zealand. Yeah. Came over, and like sometimes they have like a second wind, don't they? Like these Southern Hemisphere players, and they become like because New Zealand obviously thought, oh well, he's not going to get a New Zealand team anymore. You can go and go and earn your money. And he came over, and obviously was absolutely dominant in European rugby as well.
Incredible.
Like an absolute brute as well. Like dirty, horrible, fucking stinking player, but
literally what you want from a number 4, isn't it? Yeah, just literally to just be big, horrible, get in your face, hard as nails, do all the dirty work. Yeah. He epitomises that, and I think just to add to that as well, dual code as well. He was at the top of his game in rugby league as well. Queensland, the state of origin. That is the pinnacle of rugby league, and to come here and then dominate that as well. Yeah, he just transferred over. He's been awesome.
World Cup winner as well. my other honourable mention is Leo Cullen. I'm not going to say anything.
Terrible he is again. Terrible he is.
An odd-looking gentleman, but and he was, a sick rugby player, and he's a fantastic coach.
Oh
now.
yeah, definitely.
Obviously, a part of that Leinster dynasty. Lots of caps. Well, not loads of caps for Ireland, but he got in and out of there. Yeah, good line-out forward. More like your big long second row. So like that Brad Thorne, Leo Cullen dynamic would
great
sort
dynamic.
Of work. But my number ones are the first one, an English player, Leicester, Martin Johnson.
Need you say more?
Yeah, like obviously won it all. That Leicester team was just absolutely disgusting. He was the captain, the leader of not just England, of Leicester. He was around for a long time. Probably one of England's greatest ever rugby players. And
easy.
And a Heineken Cup legend for that Leicester team and everything they did. So yeah, Martin Johnson was my number 4. Like, what can you say about him?
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. And did you know that he was captain New Zealand schoolboys as well?
So, well, I didn't up until about a week ago, where I was watching a video on players who could have played for other countries.
Yeah.
And it was a picture of him in a New Zealand top, and I didn't realise that he could have qualified through there. Yeah. Which is nuts, because when you think of England, you literally think Martin Johnson is the most British bloke of all time, don't you?
Yeah.
He epitomises Britain.
Yeah, I don't know whether he went over there when he was young and then grew up there for a bit. I don't know.
Yeah,
he played for New Zealand schoolboys, and England must have got him back sharpish, because what a player he turned into.
Oh yeah.
And to partner him, I had Fabian Palouse, who, again, you've got two of probably the best captains there. He was obviously captain of Toulouse when they won a couple of Heineken Cups.
Yes.
Another enforcer, another leader. Imagine having Martin Johnson and Fabian Palouse in your second row. Obviously a French legend as well. Could play all across the back 5 in the scrum. So I just thought those two probably the two biggest leaders in.
That's what you want from second rows. You just want them to be big, horrible, and just get stuck into people. I think if you've got that in a second row, you're laughing, really. Yeah. Don't think there's enough of that anymore. I know we see it maybe with Etzebeth. Yeah, gets in. I think Baki's supposed to before him.
Yeah, and they're getting to the end of their career a little bit now, aren't they? Like Etzebeth, but like even the new South African ones, they're not. I guess you can't be as horrible anymore, can you?
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, 5 million cameras on you in the stadium, which is a bit different. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, those. Yeah, so they were my two.
Yeah, cool. So I only had one honourable mention, and that is an unsung hero. I'm a big fan of unsung heroes, Dav.
Yeah.
People who partner people maybe don't get the plaudits because their partner, when I think of centres or second rows, for instance, or half-backs, is Don Curl Callahan.
Yeah, man. Let's get it. I'll put the video in when his pants came off.
Yeah. Again, another bit of an enforcer, and I'll come on to my starting two now, but that partnership he had with Paul O'Connell, the balance in it was brilliant. You had Don Callahan, he'd get all the yellow and red cards, get stuck into people, while Paul O'Connell could do his leadership and his line-outs and everything else. So I think that partnership works so well, and I think he's an unsung hero for that. And I think a lot of Paul O'Connell's success has come from that.
Yeah, but one thing I will say, after all that, he is a handsome man.
Oh, very handsome. I met him outside the Millennium Stadium for one of the Six Nations games. Mate, what a handsome bloke.
He's huge as well.
Yeah, he's massive.
He's absolutely massive.
Yeah, unit.
Yeah,
and handsome.
That moment when his shorts came off and he tried to play the game with his rifles.
That's quality.
And he's just like,
just wants to carry on smashing people. Doesn't care about his shorts.
In his pants.
Yeah, just let me keep nailing people and getting yellow carded. Yeah, I love it. And that game's at Cardiff Arms Park as well.
Yeah.
Shout out to Cardiff Arms Park, legendary stadium.
Really good player, man. Like Ireland do produce some mad second rows, don't they? Fair play to them.
And second row partnerships as well. That's the thing. Is, regardless whether they play for Munster or Leinster, they always seem to gel very well.
Yeah.
So he was my honourable mention. I want to give a shout to him. So my first one, my number 4. Now I don't know whether he plays 5 or 4. I think he swaps.
Yeah, me and Sean always say this. Like,
I ain't got a clue.
I can't got a clue,
mate. Especially as a back as well. I ain't got a clue, right? But I've gone with Will Skelton, right? Now, the reason I've gone for Will Skelton is La Rochelle did the double in those 2 years, didn't they? It was over Leinster both times.
Yeah.
And he was incredible in both games, central. And I remember Will Skelton, when he first started off his career at the Waratahs, he was just this big sort of unfit lump who, he would get you over the gain line, but he had no sort of rugby ability about him. And he was there because he was 6'10" and 140 kilos, and there was no other reason he would be there. And when he went to Saracens, they trimmed all the weight off him. So don't get me wrong, he was still probably 130 kilos, but his skill set just transformed as well, and he just became such a solid player. He's gone on to captain, the Australia at the previous World Cup.
Yeah.
And in those 2 games, he was just an absolute menace and central to the reason why why La Rochelle did the double over Leinster.
He didn't win it with Saracens then, did he?
He might have won it with Saracens, he might have. But I remember him for those 2 games specifically, and how much of an impact he had.
Winning it at 2 teams, that would be quite a feat, wouldn't it? I wonder if there's many players who've won it at 2 teams.
Yeah, they can't be allowed.
Yeah, I've never been the biggest Will Skelton fan, and I think it's probably from like when he started, and he was just a bit of a lump, and he was a little bit of a liability. He was so unfit.
Yeah.
But you are right. Like when he got out of Australia, I bet there was, and put his head down and became a proper professional. He has turned into a destructive force, and not just a destructive force, but a really good rugby player.
Yeah.
And I think he was missing that early on. So that's a shout out to his professionalism, really, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Turned that around a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. To go from that to as we said, a Heineken Cup winner, to then go into captaining your country in a World Cup, what a turnaround!
Yeah,
and he's become central to La Rochelle. I don't think they would be the same pack without him, to be honest.
I always think though, he's like a modern, isn't he? And whenever I'm thinking of these Heineken Cup, you're thinking of the all-time greats.
Yeah.
And I guess winning 2 with La Rochelle, it does make you a great. But I'm just
Yeah.
It's like that nostalgia of the old Heineken Cup and
Oh,
stuff.
absolutely.
It still feels weird to me that La Rochelle have won 2 Heineken Cups.
It's bonkers.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They came out of nowhere, didn't they?
Yeah, when you think of Heineken Cup, you don't think of La Rochelle, do you?
Exactly.
It'd probably be the last team that pop into my head, to be honest with you.
I'd even think of Breathe, back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? When they used to just tear
100%,
everyone up.
yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely. So he was one of them, and I've tried to go for a balance again. So he was sort of my enforcer, ball carrier, get in your face type second row, and the second one was obviously the man himself, Mr. Paul O'Connell.
Yeah.
Again, I think in terms of leadership, I think maybe aside from Alan Wynne-Jones, I don't think I've seen a leader quite like Paul O'Connell, to be honest. And I think when you look at a leader, there's different types of leaders and captains. You can have a captain who leads by example on the pitch. You can have a captain who's a talker and gets you motivated in the changing room. But I think he was the perfect blend of both. He was incredible on the pitch, but he was so motivating off it as well. If you listen to some of his Lions teams talk, do you know what I mean? And then what he goes and does on the field, after that. As I said, I think it's only probably Alan Wynne-Jones who I've seen was either better or just as good. But what a player.
I think if it wasn't for Wales having their peak, Ireland would have probably won a lot more as well as
definitely.
captain. I think he just sort of came at that time where Alan Wynne-Jones's Wales was just winning loads of Grand Slams.
Incredible.
He did it all with Munster, didn't he? He
is Mr. Munster.
Yeah,
if you go around Limerick, there is literally posters of Paul O'Connell. It's literally there is.
Poster boy O'Connell.
But my fiance's father went to Dublin on work, and he was in Limerick for a meeting. And he said he got off the train and he was greeted by this ginormous poster of Paul O'Connell, just his face.
Calvin Klein.
Yeah, literally. He was those people who just advertise everything in the city. So he's the face of the cafe, and then he's the face of the newsagent. He was just everywhere. He is literally Mr. Munster.
That's hilarious.
He's great, and just what a player. He was Mr. Ireland for a while, along with O'Driscoll. He was quality player.
I feel like we should have one each, really, because you've named some good ones, I've named some good ones.
I like your honourable mention, mind. I love Brad Thorne.
Yeah,
I think that's a hell of a shout.
I think Brad Thorne came one season, won a Heineken Cup, left. Like you look,
it's quite iconic. What it is, to be fair.
Yeah, it is.
Came tour, won the best cup there is to win in Europe, but then just went.
But like someone like I think Martin Johnson, Paul O'Connell, like that is.
Oh yeah,
that's a ridiculous partnership.
100% in agreement.
And like you've got the Leinster dynasty, you've got the Munster dynasty. I think it's hard when you're thinking of Heineken Cup as a whole to have like someone like Brad Thorne who came and went.
Yeah.
Although the next position is someone exactly like that. But
I think mine's is either the same or it's going to be similar.
Should we do Martin Johnson and Paul O'Connell?
Yeah, definitely.
That is
what a partnership that is.
Second row's done. So do you want to start us off with blindside flanker?
Yeah. So blindside flanker. To be honest with you, I was going to put a few honourable mentions in, but I found this guy, or I remembered this guy, shall I say, and the nostalgia just sort of came flooding back. You know, I remember Rugby 08, this guy rated 88, Australian international, Rocky Elsom.
Mate, I've got him down as well, mate.
Again, just an outrageously good player. Won it with Leinster.
Yeah.
Didn't he? I remember, I think, was it the final against Northampton where he was just unplayable.
I was speaking to someone recently and you talk about like Brian O'Driscoll, Mr. Leinster and stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently, like he is like a cult hero in Leinster.
I'm not surprised.
They absolutely took to him and they absolutely love him over there, and I think like for the time he was there, they just the sort of Irish fans just really took to him, and he obviously was an unbelievable player, and he's held in like that highest regard in Leinster as one of those sort of players. Tough as nails as well.
Nails, dirty work, bit of flash now and again. He had it all. He what a player. I just remember him tearing up for me on Rugby 08. That's why I picked him mainly. He just literally came flooding back.
It says here that he was Leinster's Rugby's Player of the Year, Magna's League Player of the Year, and European Player of the Year, all in 1 year.
Enough said.
I know, like that's just ridiculous.
He's won the Super 14 Player of the Year when he was there, Wallaby of the Year when he was there.
European Dream Team ERC to celebrate the 15th anniversary of the Heineken Cup. So he's like, yeah. That is a shout. Was he your only one of?
He was. It was such a nostalgic,
like
definite name that I didn't even think of putting any honourable mentions. To be honest with you, it was him. It could only be him.
I've got one which I know you're going to love, and that's Jerome Kano. Again, I don't know. I'll link this video, but it's called "Strength of 1,000 Men."
Mate, that bloke was an absolute unit.
Yeah, and like I don't think he really took off in New Zealand. Well, no, he went back to New Zealand, didn't he?
Yeah,
and he got back in the team again.
Yeah, because he left for a little bit and then he went back, and I think he came back then again, didn't he?
Yeah. But he was a sick player. Play 8 as well, but
he's now coaching Toulouse as well, isn't he?
Is he?
I think so. I think he was for a little bit, as far as I know, or he was helping out when he retired.
But like another one of those perfect imports for like a French team, like sort of. Maybe decided to leave New Zealand, picked up by Toulouse, and just turned into probably one of the best players in European rugby.
Easy.
So I had Jerome Kano down as a 6. I also had Sean O'Brien as well.
Great player.
Sean O'Brien was a bit of an Irish legend. He could play anywhere across the back. Back row.
He played 7 quite.
He played 7. And I'll come to it. I had him down as a 7, and I had Dusatoir down as a 6.
Yeah.
And I think they're both interchangeable. So I'll have either
Definitely.
one or, but they're both on my list.
But I think if you look at Rocky Elsom and Jerome Kano, it's everything you want in number 6, isn't it?
Yeah,
big, hard, ball carrier, just works his socks off, nails people.
Yeah, tough tacklers.
Yeah, just a unit who just wants to smash everything in his path.
I think we'll go Rocky Elsom because I had him down as my number 1 as well. And just from speaking to some people and what a legend he was when he went to Leinster and everything, and then just seeing some of those stats of all the awards he won when he was ERC Player of the Year and stuff. I think he was the man of the match in that final as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he was.
And like, even though it may have been a bit of a smash bang, him coming in and going, but what a fucking impact he did.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the impact. I know we talked about Brad Thorne, but he didn't have nowhere near as much of an impact as Rocky Elsom did when he came. So, yeah, definitely.
7. So, I did just mention Dusatois, and I think Dusatois should be in the conversation. Obviously, Toulouse legend, maybe even captained after a little bit when Toulouse wasn't around. Captained France, I know as well.
Regarded by many as arguably one best 6 of all time.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? I know, like I said, I know you said interchangeable and play 7, but I've seen many a dream team from ex-pros that puts him in there.
But there's 2 players here. So the first one, and we've mentioned him on the pod before, but Stefan Armitage.
Great player.
And he was almost like specifically a European rugby player, like played in the European...
Mr. Heineken Cup.
Mr. Heineken Cup, because he never played for England, or he played a couple of caps for England, and he went over to Toulon, and they sort of used him just to become that dynasty of when... And he was like their main man. An amazing rugby player. We talk about him on the Style Points, I think, XV, because he was just an absolute brute, but like quick, agile, strong, everything. He was. They're
the type of players you want, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? You know, Toulon there. I think that's probably one of the best bits of business. By any team, you know, they've gone right. This guy is clearly class. He's not getting a look in with England. We'll bring him over here. You know, it means he can't be picked, and he just became this incredible player for him, and they could use him all year long.
That's the thing, isn't it? Like teams, like you lose players over international breaks, and when they're in those windows and they've got to go, like teams look for players now who aren't going to get picked for international, so they can play all season and you can concentrate on just their club, and that's exactly what he did. And he almost became, he was the best player in Europe for a long time, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. I think he won the Heineken Cup Player of the Year a couple of times. You know, I think if you look at a team who's trying to do that now, it's someone like Sale Sharks. If you look at Sale Sharks with all the Saffers they're bringing in, they're bringing in all the fringe sort of ones who aren't really getting a look in, and they're just staying with them all year, and they're becoming such a good team. And I think that's what Toulon did. They were getting those ones who were either coming to the end of their career, you know, in terms of the superstars, or they were getting those players who were on the fringe, and I think that's what created their dynasty, to be honest with you.
Funnily enough, Squidge Rugby does a video. It was quite early on. He did it on La Rochelle, and La Rochelle had a very similar thing. What they did was, when Toulon, Toulouse, and all these teams were bringing all these overseas players in, what La Rochelle did was they took all the France under-20s players who they were displacing, put them in the La Rochelle team, and they made an amazing team from that.
That's great.
Squidge Rugby does an amazing analysis video on it and shows how they like. They used to throw the ball around those,
isn't it? Yeah, your recruitment. I'd argue it's one of the as well as your tactics in a game or what you do in training. I think your recruitment is so important, and if you've got someone with that tactical nous, you know, to do that, it's amazing.
And the other one I had for a moment in time, and obviously he was part of our Leicester team, is Neil Back.
I've got him as well. Yeah, I've got him as well.
The tap in the scrum. Do you remember this?
I do indeed.
This is
won him the game.
Yeah, well,
5 metre scrum, 2 minutes to go. Yeah. You know, realistically, with the team Munster have, I'd say 90% of the time they're scoring that if it wasn't for what he did. Yeah,
definitely. And like, I remember my dad being like in outrage about it because it was like an English player. But like, if it's not getting seen and no one picks it up, it's probably like it's amazing. Yeah. Like it's an amazing thing to do, isn't it?
Well, he's just won his team the Heineken Cup.
Flicks it. So for anyone who's not watching, he flicks the ball out of the scrum half's hands and into his side of the scrum just to get the ball back on a 5 metre scrum, and it pretty much wins Leicester the Heineken Cup in the Millennium Stadium as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So I had him in there. He was an amazing player, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Lions, obviously loads of caps for England, etc., etc. But that one moment always sticks in my head as like a match-winning moment. Yeah. And sevens are the biggest cheats on the pitch. You want them to be cheats.
You need them to be. You need the dark arts. They're masters of the dark arts. Or the good ones are.
Yeah. Exactly.
There's ones who don't get away with it as often.
Like Richie McCaw, like. Every other country in the world apart from New Zealand, they would call him a cheat.
Oh yeah, but Mr. Cheat, literally Captain Cheater.
Yeah,
he was. But it's not cheating if you get away with it, is it?
Yeah, exactly. So I'd Neil Back as well. So I've got a few there. Who did you have down?
So I had Neil Back in there, and I had him as an honourable mention actually. But he was for a while going to be my first choice, just for that one moment. I think absolutely iconic moment. To do that, which essentially wins you Heineken Cup is nuts. But I went with a man, again, bit of recency bias here, but I think, as far as I'm aware, he's the only man to have played in the forwards and the backs in a Heineken Cup campaign. That's Levani Bottia.
Okay.
So, and he's in there for that reason as my first choice. I think to have a player, and I even think within the final, he moved between 7 and 12 multiple times, or at least once.
Yeah.
And I think to do that is crazy.
Yeah.
In a game of that importance and significance, right? And that's why he's my first choice. To just jump between the two just shows what a player he is.
I would step out of the way if this man was running at me.
Oh, mate.
He is an absolute...
I would have already been subbed off.
Yeah. Sent myself off.
Yeah.
He is an absolute beast.
Oh,
absolute beast.
brute.
He is frightening. Did he play in Scotland for a bit first? Oh no, he wasn't at Glasgow, was he?
Again, another one who's put La Rochelle on the map, really, to be honest with you, with how good he's been. Turnovers, he's unbelievable. Defence is unbelievable. You know, going forward, like you said, wouldn't want to be in his way. And I think, you know, if you're playing a second team rugby game on at 3 p.m. on a Saturday in Wales and you flick between the forwards and the backs, it's not that big of a deal. But to do it in a Heineken Cup final or within a Heineken Cup campaign at a professional level takes some doing for me.
Definitely.
And I think that, you know, for me, that's why he was my number one.
And like his clips, you can see he's wearing 7 on his back and 7 12 on his back.
Yeah.
But like that is, that's good. I don't think he's going to displace. I'm torn between Neil Back and Stefan Armitage.
I would go with Neil Back personally because he was my, he was your first choice. He was my first choice for a while. I again, you know, when you're looking at iconic moments, and I know we're getting good players in here as well, but he was a good player, and that moment, I think, is just, it'll be remembered for such a long time.
Yeah, and he's pretty much won him the Heineken Cup as well.
Yeah, it literally did, yeah.
Okay, we'll go with Neil Back for that. Okay, so, number 8.
Number 8, right.
So you go first then.
So I've got two very similar players in their play style. But the first one, my honourable mention, I've gone for Billy Vunipola again. Okay. Bit of a boring pick again.
No, he's a fun player.
He is, but the reason I picked him is I genuinely think in his prime, he's possibly the best ball carrying 8 I've seen.
Yeah.
I just think he was so destructive. He was
good footwork as well. Was how he used to get over gain line.
Skillful. Offloading game was good. But every time he got the ball, especially in that prime, he would draw 3 defenders straight away, and the space would just open up elsewhere. Yeah. You know, just an absolute wrecking ball. Absolute wrecking ball he was.
I think if he obviously suffered with he suffered with injuries quite a lot, especially in recent years.
And he likes to punch police as well, so that doesn't help.
When I searched for him on YouTube, it said Billy Vunipola tasered. It's the first search result.
I mean, it took 2 tasers to get him down, so that's an horrible mention in itself.
Yeah, that is. But if he hadn't have been, had those injuries sort of in the last few years, he'd go down as like one of England's best number 8s.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a sick player, and again, that Saracens team was just unstoppable. That pack, he was a massive part of that pack. Like playing the number 8 when your pack's going forward like that, it must just be a dream. You must just pick the ball up to the back of the scrum and think, right, who's having it?
Yeah,
and he used to give it to people all the time.
Yeah, he's take 2 people to get him down every single time. You just can't one-up tackle him. He was
good player.
Yeah, very good player. Very good player. And my number 1 pick for this position was none other than Louis Picamol.
Oh my God, I knew that name for ages. I love it. Louis
Picamol. What a player. Again, very similar to Billy Vunipola, but in his prime, again, such a good ball carrier. Yeah. Such a good ball carrier. And central to that French team at the time as well. You know, when that French team fell off sort of 2015 to 2019, that sort of, the French demise, he was still a standout player through it, and he was at club level as well. He used to manhandle people. He was again just another wrecking ball.
He's a good shape on him, wasn't he? He was quite upright, but he was quite a tall sort of player. But good footwork, strong. Yeah, just like some people are just built different, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
and he was just a monster. I like that shout, man. I haven't thought about Louis Picamol for a long time.
Yeah, great player.
And who's he winning with? Toulouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like him. Okay. So Louis pick them all. So mine, I had two different ones to that.
Oh, nice.
So my honourable mention, somebody who I think gets forgotten about quite a lot, CJ Stander.
Oh, great player.
So CJ Stander, I think he was sort of just trucking along a little bit. And then he just exploded out of nowhere, didn't he?
Yeah.
And got on that Lions tour, was really effective on that Lions tour. Obviously, was a part of that Munster team, a massive part of that Irish team. And yeah, he could play again 6'8", but yeah, I used to love CJ Stander. I just used to love his ball carrying. He was probably a little bit less he was just a little bit more brutal. He was proper South African one. He just loved contact. Loved bashing into people. Loved running hard. And I think he's a little bit of a forgotten player. He sort of disappeared a little bit, didn't he?
The clip I was actually going to talk about was the one we're currently watching now, where he literally catches the ball in the backfield, and rather than passing or running into the space, which would have been the right option, he just sees his opposite number, Faletau, possibly one of the best Northern Hemisphere 8s of all time, and just goes, I'm going to run full pelt into you. Like, I love that. I got a lot of time for it.
And I assume he won it with Munster. I wasn't 100%, but he must have.
I don't know, when did Munster... I was going to come on to say this. Did Munster... I don't know whether he did.
Yeah, I was wondering whether he did. Because Munster fell off a little bit, didn't they? It was a bit early doors, wasn't it, when they were winning all their...
But I got a feeling he's been there for longer than we think, and he might have just crept in.
Yeah, maybe.
2012.
I'll double check that. Maybe we'll put him in just in case. And my other one, which I'm adamant he did win it, was Sergio Parisse, because he went to Toulon for that season, didn't he?
Of course he did.
And
so I was going to say, he was a Stade Francais mainstay, wasn't he, for years?
And as a Heineken Cup player, he didn't have that win until he went to Toulon.
Yeah.
But he was like, those Stade Francais teams got very close a lot of times.
They were star-studded.
And obviously, Sergio Parisse is just the fucking best number 8 ever. The most fun rugby number 8 to ever watch. And I'm sure we went to Toulon and finally got over the line and won a Heineken Cup with them.
If you had to literally describe a number 8 in terms of carrying a team, what he did with that Italian side for 10 plus years, literally that man's back must be in bits.
I know.
I mean, he must be Captain Sciatica right now.
And
literally,
we talk about him on the style points, like kicking and everything. Like he was just he was a proper,
maverick.
Just a proper maverick rugby player. I loved him. Okay, so who do we want to say there? I think Heineken Cup wise, I think Billy Vunipola for that Saracens. Yeah. For that Saracens.
He was at his peak when they won it as well, and he was a big part of that. I think he was. I think so destructive in his prime, but his prime was very short. To be fair, I know he had, like you said, I know he had a couple of injuries and he fell off a bit, and he gained a bit of weight as well, didn't he? Yeah. Like he put on a lot more weight, and he went a bit downhill. But those. I think it was like 4 or 5 years. Yeah. He was unplayable,
and they were just so good in Europe, weren't they? They were like a European team, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were just built to win European Cups and stuff. All right, cool. So Billy Vunipola, so that's our pack done. Scott Gibbs. Right. Okay. So pack done. On to halfbacks. Whose go is it? Is it my go?
Yeah, it's your go. Yeah.
Right. My honourable mentions. So I had Yashvili down there, but I don't think he won it.
No, he was. So I had him initially as well. So 2 players who I had in my team who I had to take out because I was like, they definitely won it. Was Emmanuel Haranoldouki.
Yeah, he was.
He was Biarritz. With Yashvili. So they were both Biarritz, and I know Yashvili did move to Toulouse at one point, but I don't think he ever won it.
Yeah, I don't think he won it either.
Yes,
he was a proper European. Like I remember those Biarritz teams were sick, weren't they? Yeah. They got really close a couple of times.
Ian Bolshaw, I remember played on the wing for him.
I had him, but obviously he doesn't count. Right, this is the one I was laughing at. Richard Wigglesworth.
I shouldn't laugh because he's a good player.
Yeah,
if you look through the names of the players we've got, right, our second row partnership is Martin Johnson and Paul O'Connell. You're telling me They're going to have fucking Richard Wigglesworth marching him about the pitch.
So he's only an honourable mention. And he's like the top 5 most all-time European caps, and obviously won it a few times for Saracens. But I can't even argue it. But my number 1, Rob Howley.
Oh, of course.
So
same as me.
Same as you. Let's talk about Rob Howley a little bit. Wales produces some serious scrum halves. He was in a pretty bad Wales team. Yeah. He was like one of the best players, and obviously that try in the final as well.
I'd argue it's probably the most iconic moment from the Heineken Cup final. I think, I know we talked about the hand of God, as they called it, in rugby terms with Neil Back, but if there's proper rugby fans out there, they will know this moment.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It was just so weird because again, the Neil Back thing had happened, and then the Howley thing had happened, and it was European rugby finals. Mad things were happening in them, and things which were just the most amazing sort of moments which you just wouldn't expect to happen. And obviously, who's the fullback?
Clement Poitrino.
Ball's over the line. All he has to do is dab it down. For some reason, he's waiting. You see Rob Howley tearing down the wing, just chasing a complete lost cause, and just dabs it down, and it's everything just sort of stopped, didn't it? It was just
it's like he was playing Sleeping Lions or something. He just shut down like a robot. He was just staring at the ball, and it's not as even if the ball was going quick either. It was literally almost at a stop. It was never going out. It absolutely fumbled that big time. But to not give up on the chase as well, Howley could have easily thought, there's no way I'm getting there.
He revitalised his career going to Wasps, because Cardiff was a pretty good team, but it was nowhere near the levels of Wasps fighting for those European. And he was starting Lions scrum half. Rob Howley, he was an amazing player, but when he went there, you just saw, and he played in an amazing team. You could really see how fucking good he was. And obviously he's a great coach as well. Coached Wales in some of their best moments.
I'm in agreement there. What a great player. Underrated by many, I would say, as well. I think, and outside of Wales, I would say, outside of Wales and Wasps, he's probably underrated.
And I think it's very hard because Wales were so bad.
They were,
and him and Neil Jenkins, 9 and 10, were pretty much the saving grace. And Jenkins used to kick everything. Howley used to make magic out of nothing. And I just think it's very hard to realise how good he was when you were playing in teams who were getting beat by 80 points by South Africa.
Absolutely.
And didn't win any.
And I think on the flip side as well, there's lots of players who are so bang average, and I'll come on to talk about a few in a bit, to be honest. But we're just in such a star-studded team that people sort of, I think, overrated them a little bit,
Yeah, definitely.
So on the flip side, so I'll get into mine. So, bit of a common theme in mine. I'm going to start with the honourable mentions, obviously. Bit of a common theme of funny-looking players, to be honest, creeping up. So Peter Stringer gets in there for that reason. Or a stereotypical scrum half in that sense as well, for his size. But again, he was a very good player in all fairness.
And he had a weird pass.
Yeah, it was like a spin the ball, and it would be upright but spinning.
Yeah, and I don't really get how he was so good for so long with such an awkward little pass.
I don't know how he does it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and I don't know how how the outside half wouldn't be angry with taking a ball completely different to anyone else. But again, he was just always around, wasn't he?
Yeah, and again built a formidable partnership with O'Gara as well.
Yeah.
I'll come on to talk about partnerships as well in a little bit, but I think having a 9-10 partnership is so crucial.
Yeah.
And his partnership with Ronan O'Gara was unbelievable, in all fairness. Scored a try in the final against Biarritz there, as we can see.
Yeah, Biarritz got so close so many times.
Yeah, I know. They must have been gutted. Because they've fallen right off now, haven't they? They're nowhere near it. But yeah.
Are they even in Pro 1 anymore? Are they in Pro 2?
They went down to Pro 2 for a while. I think they've just come back up. But I think they might have got relegated again, potentially.
Mate, how many finals were in the Millennium Stadium?
Yeah,
and they've got another one next year.
Yeah. I think this will be the 5th final.
Is it?
4th or 5th, yeah.
Mate, some seriously iconic moments have happened in that stadium. Okay, so he's your
So he's one. I have got another honourable mention. Now this bloke plays 9 and 10, but I've got a few honourable mentions at 10, so I've thrown him in at 9, and that's Freddie Michalak.
Yeah.
So I didn't know. I want to say it was the 05 final, maybe 07, somewhere around that time. He kicked 3 penalties in extra time.
Did he?
To win him the game.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like it.
So to do that is nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, kicking penalties anyway in a final is going to be nerve-wracking enough, but to kick 3 to win your team the game in extra time.
I'll give it to you because on his wiki it does say fly half, scrum half.
Yeah.
And we've talked about him a lot on this pod. What an amazing rugby player. So graceful.
Yeah.
Lovely to watch. Good looking cat as well.
Yeah.
Fair play to him.
Yeah. Typifies French rugby, doesn't he? Jouet.
He
is
cool as fuck.
Cool, handsome, Jouet.
Yeah.
He's Mr. French. But yeah, my number one was Rob Howley as well. The most iconic moment in Heineken Cup final history. Yeah. I don't think anyone else can go there, to be honest.
My old man when it happened, when Neil Back did that, he was moaning, and when Rob Howley did that, he was like, yeah. Just because he's Welsh, you know, and he was like, yes, he's won it. Right, 10.
Right, 10.
We probably got about fucking 50.
Oh mate, I could have reeled off so many here. I'll do a quick honourable mention. Shout out to Felipe Contepomi, one of my favourite players.
Who did he win it with?
Leinster.
Oh yeah, of course he did.
Yeah, Leinster stalwart he was. Great player.
Amazing player.
Amazing. Again, flair. Mr. Argentina for years, wasn't he, with P-Shot?
Did he win it with Toulon as well?
I think he was just before they started. I want to say Toulon won it 13, 14, 15.
Yeah.
And I think he was just before. But yeah, so he was in there. Got another honourable mention of Ronan O'Gara. I think he might be the only player to win it as a player and a coach. Or one of.
Yeah, and top point scorer in Heineken Cup history as well.
Yeah. So he got in there for that. Again, alongside O'Connell, he's known as Mr. Munster. Definitely at the backs anyway.
You know what? He is proper grown up, Ronan O'Gara, because I didn't often like watching him play, and you know he was a little bit boring, I guess. He kicked the goals and stuff like that. But when you hear him talk as a coach,
so knowledgeable.
Yeah, and some of his ideas and some of the things he puts across in interviews and stuff, like he seems like an amazing coach. Like, and yes, obviously a proper rugby bloke.
Yeah, rugby through and through.
Yeah, lives and breathes it. But like, if you were looking like a highlight reel of him, it's probably going to be a lot of fatigue.
Yeah,
and like Andrew
asleep.
Ford, that we use all of his videos on this pod. You know, Ronan O'Gara tribute, king of the drop goal. So
well, it says
not the most exciting of picks, but he's going to get you over the line.
Yeah, I mean, in certain positions, you want a player. You know, obviously it depends on how you play as a team, but you just, you know, your hookers, your tens. You just want someone who was absolutely solid at doing their job. So you want a 10 who kicks his goals, who kicks the touch, his drop kicks are all spot on, and he marshals the game really well. And with your hookers, you know, you want your set piece, your bread and butter. If they're solid at that, they're going to be a good player, right? And I think he typifies that, to be honest with you. Yes, you have your teams where you have your Mavericks, and that works well for some teams, but in that sort of well-oiled Munster engine, you just needed a player like him, and I think, and that's why they were so successful.
Behind that pack as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. That's a good shout.
Yeah. So, and then I'll come on to my number one pick in a minute. I've got one more honourable mention. I am a fly-off, guys. If you haven't noticed, fly-off /centre /utility back / best ball carrier of all time is Danny Cipriani.
Oh, okay.
So he actually won it with Wasps, and he was playing fullback in that game.
Okay.
Now the reason I picked Danny Cipriani as an honourable mention, because that man should have had way more caps than he did for England. Now
16 caps.
I know there was when he was younger. I know he had his off-field troubles. You know, I know he came back from that, and if we talk about Mavericks, the complete opposite to Ronan O'Gara is this man.
Yeah.
Done it all over the world. Went Melbourne Rebels. You know, he did it in England.
Yeah.
You know, he did it touring.
That's a shout. I didn't realise he'd won it with Wasps.
Yeah.
That's a good. That's good.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. What a player! And the reason I've put him as an honourable mention is because I think he should have had way more international caps than he did. Yeah. Fantastic player, something different. He would have been perfect for that England side as well, where you would have had either your Wilkinsons or your Farrells as your strong, sturdy, play the system 10. And if you needed that little bit of magic, he would have been perfect coming off the bench, almost like Marcus Smith is now. Do you know what I mean? With Farrell. Looking at our pass now for Gloucester.
It's just a shame. I just feel like it's a little bit of unfulfilled potential.
Yeah, definitely.
A little bit, but like when he was on, wasn't he? He was unstoppable.
What a player.
So was that your pick, or you got more to come?
I'm not going to say too much on my actual pick. I think the honourable mentions deserve a bit more of a shout out. But number one, and it kills me to say this as a Welsh fan, is Johnny Wilkinson.
I don't think you can hate Johnny Wilkinson.
No, I don't hate it. As a fly half, I rate him so highly. Yeah. Best defensive fly half of all time. Yeah. I think. Really rock solid. Again, kicks his goals. But it's almost as if, for me, I know people will talk about his prime being in that early sort of 2000s, but for me, he just hit a new level with that Toulon three-peat.
Well, it was...
And leading him to that three-peat. He was central to that.
It's almost like he had two careers, wasn't it?
Yeah, literally.
He had his, England career, and then he decided to move away from that a little bit and go and join Toulon, and then had his, club European career, because I guess he was at Newcastle a lot. So he was probably just looked at as an outside half. Yeah, I don't think we need to say much about Wilkinson. He's amazing. No. And when it comes to my 10s, I had the same down. I had Roland O'Gara, I had Freddie Michalak, I had Johnny Wilkinson, and I obviously had Charlie Hodgson as well.
Oh. That is our 9-10. Richard Wigglesworth, Charlie Hodgson. Behind that unbelievable back.
Charlie Hodgson, what a player.
Great. He was a great player, in all fairness. I wouldn't go that far.
I'm only joking, it's for the memes. I can't put anyone else in there but Johnny Wilkinson.
It's got to be, isn't it?
That Toulon, when they had all that money and they were just signing the best players in the world, he fit the bill and he came and just tore it up.
Yeah, he did everything for him. He is Mr. Toulon, really, isn't he?
Yeah, and partnered with Rob Howley, that's frightening, isn't it? Halfback's done, right, centres, so...
I'm going to suggest, do we do these as a partnership again, Dav? Yeah, like the second rows?
Partnership.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
So, honourable mentions. I'll do both honourable mentions together. So my 12s, I've got Gordon Darcy.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I've got him as well.
Pretty no nonsense 12, but he was a class player.
Quality.
Again, probably not the most exciting, was he? But he was effective in everything he did.
If you want to talk about the biggest unsung heroes of rugby, he's in the top 3. For me,
it's going to be. He's always going to be outside O'Gara and inside O'Driscoll. Isn't he?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's brutal. That's a brutal place to be.
Absolutely.
And you've got to be somebody who doesn't want the limelight and just does their job. And he did that very well.
Well, he literally made it easy for those two. Yeah. I think. There's a question to be had. Yes, Brian O'Driscoll is the best centre of all time in my opinion, but does he get to the heights he does without Darcy inside him just mopping up all the dirty stuff, doing the unflashy stuff, the unselfish lines? Yeah. I think he is the biggest unsung hero in rugby personally for me.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
And his career spanned a long time, didn't it?
Longevity as
going.
well.
He looked like he got big as well at one point, didn't he? He was jacked at one point.
Yeah.
I really liked him as a player. Obviously, that Leinster team was filthy, and he was a massive part of that. A really consistent performer. You just knew he was always going to be there. And he was always he'd always give you a 7 out of 10, always. And every now and again he'd give you a 10 out of 10.
Always.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think going back, and I mentioned it earlier about partnerships. If you look at any good players. When you list off good rugby players, regardless of position, the likelihood is they've been in a fantastic partnership somewhere. Yeah. For instance, Jamie Roberts, Jonathan Davis in the centre, Nonu and Conrad Smith. Yeah. I know they're all 4 of them are considered excellent, but it's often that they've got a good player either inside or outside them who's just made them shine even more. Do you know what I mean? And I think Darcy was that man for O'Driscoll.
My other one, and we've covered this guy in the pod before, but Matt Gittow, that Toulon team, it was almost unfair, that Toulon team, wasn't it? It's just fucking stupid, the players they had.
Yeah.
And, well, again, he was one of the best players in world rugby at the time, and then you stick Johnny Wilkinson inside him.
It was like a FIFA career mode, wasn't it? It was just like when someone went on with £1 billion and just went, I'll have all the best players.
Was it like Man Nonu outside him as well then?
So Nonu, I think Nonu came a little bit later, but they had Habana, Drew Mitchell on the wings, and there was like Armitage a fullback, which again I'll come on to speak about him a little bit later. But the team they had Fernandez Lobby and Chris Masoe in the back row. And so like he speaks for himself, like what a career he had. 10, 12, he'd play anywhere. 9 as well, he did for a little bit as well. And another one we've talked about, Yannick Josion, we mentioned him. Yeah. It's this iconic shirt. Yeah. So they were my 3 for inside centre. And I can't really choose between them. And I think it might come to like a balance when we talk about those. So definitely. And then my 13s I had Brian O'Driscoll. Again, we don't need to talk about him. Just one of the best rugby players to have ever lived. Best Irish rugby player. And that partnership with Darcy could be good. But I also had somebody who is it? He sort of splits opinions a little bit. But Bastareaud. He was the one who partnered Gittow in the centre. We know we were just talking about Nonu. It was Bastareaud. Yeah. Yeah. And yes, he was unfit a lot of the time and maybe didn't reach the heights he could have. But when he played well, fucking hell, he was absolutely unstoppable. He was fantastic. And this man's caused me a lot of nightmares. And I'll tell you why, Dav, because in my own rugby career transition into a centre, because of the shape of this man, the amount of players I've now got to come up against who are built like him because they've gone, look at that centre there. I tell you what, I'm going to become a centre now, and I've got to try and tackle these 140 kilo machines. Everything says he should be a 12. Yeah, but he played 13. Yeah, he played 13 mainly. Yeah, I don't know whether that's just to do with the style of play. To be fair, like whether they just wanted their 13 coming on the short line, and because I know France often played with with 2 ball players quite a lot, didn't they? As a 10 and 12, so. It could be to do with that potentially, but he was a wrecking ball, and he was class in that Toulon team. And I tell you what, I just think he's quite a fun player to watch. Yeah, he was just quite fun. Every time he got the ball, there's a little bit of a hold of breath, like what the hell's going to happen here. So a funny story about Bastareaud. I was watching another podcast. I think it was the one with Gittow and Drew Mitchell. And I think they were talking about Bastareaud, and they said that every pre-season, all summer, all he'd eat would be bread and cheese and drink red wine, and he'd come back so overweight. And they'd be doing like hill sprints or like cycling, and he used to fake heart problems so that he didn't have to do it. So he was just a bit of a menace as well, apparently, behind the scenes. Yeah, I think win, draw, lose were on the booze. Was definitely his mantra, wasn't it? Yeah. But backed it up on the field though, that's the thing. Yeah, he did. And it's funny because he went over to the MLR, didn't he, to the American rugby, and they just started playing him 8. They just ignored that he was a thing, and it's like, you can carry on. Yeah, just go number 1. Just play 8. So they were my centres. I think maybe go through all of your centres, and then maybe we'll try and pick a cool partnership out of them. Yeah, of course. The first one, my honourable mention, one of them was going to be Gittow, just for the fact that he loves Wales. Yeah, he loves Wales. It's his second country. He always talks about how he goes to Tiger. He always puts a tweet out, like when Wales are playing. Tiger's going to be bouncing. So when they play England, isn't it? Yeah. Tiger Rev's going to be bouncing. Can't wait for those cherry vodka doubles. He's quality. So I was going to put him in just for that meme, to be honest with you. And bar the fact that he was obviously a world class player. One of my honourable mentions for number 12, and I don't know if you remember this man, but he was central to Munster, and he played so many times for him. Was Liafemi Murphy. Don't remember. Do you remember Liafemi Murphy? He was Munster's 12 for ages. For ages. Okay. And he sort of left just as they signed Casey Laulala from Cardiff. But he was a great player. Probably didn't reach the heights of world class, but he was such a solid club player. What an import for Munster. Yeah. He was great. Tackled hard, ran hard, skillfully, everything that you'd expect a South Sea Islander to be honest. Yeah. Really, really good player. And he started, God knows how many times for Munster. It was lots.
It was lots.
It was lots. It was lots. So he was one of my honourable mentions. He was my honourable mention at 12 even. And my number one was Gordon Darcy as well.
Yeah.
Just for the reason of just being instrumental to not only Brian O'Driscoll being able to shine and O'Gara at Ireland as well, but just solid player. Like you said, 7 out of 10 every game. Wouldn't be any. He was great. 13 again, very similar for this one. So I cheated a little bit just to fit him in. I put honourable mention for the memes. I put Clement Poitrenaud. So although he is a fullback, but he has played 13 a fair few times. And I put him in just for the opposite of that Howley thing, just to be remembered, because unfortunately he'll now be remembered for that incident. But he was actually a quality player. He was a mainstay in that French side. It was always Carl Heymans, Vincent Clerc, and Poitrenaud fullback, and then obviously before that the late great Dominici as well. Yeah,
Dominici was sick.
And he'll just be remembered for that moment now. And he was great.
You just Google him and like the first image that comes up, like on his thing there's a picture of Howley.
Yeah, diving and scoring. And I just love the fact that he'll be remembered for that, even though he was a quality player.
He did have a gaff in him though, didn't he? He was sort of renowned for a little bit of a gaff, wasn't he?
Handsome, scared to tackle, but dewy. Again, typical French. So he was an honourable mention, but a bit of a cheat there. But my main as well was Brian O'Driscoll. I don't think you can pick anyone else, can you?
Yeah, 13. I'm hastening to put a Leinster partnership in the centre together. So I'm wondering whether we put Guitar and O'Driscoll. Yeah,
I would just to keep Sean happy with how much he loves Wales as well.
Yeah,
I'm not apologising to him though. My arch nemesis.
Matt Gittow and Brian O'Driscoll.
There you are, Matt Gittow. That could be the Sean shout of the week.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah, because we'll go and have a drink in Tiger for Matt.
Yeah. Right. So Sean, you're going to be happy with this one, mate. I have gone all Welsh, honourable mentions, and main pick for my left winger. Okay, so my honourable mention, again, like Gethin Jenkins, someone I didn't know actually won the Heineken Cup, and that's Gareth Thomas.
Yeah, Toulouse.
And he won it with Toulouse, which I completely forgot. Great player for Wales, Bridgend, Cardiff, Toulouse, more clubs than Tiger Woods. Yeah, but again, cracking player.
Captain the Lions.
Good old Alfie, captain the Lions, over 100 caps for Wales. One of the first Welsh players to go out there, to France, wasn't he?
And then, because like Foxy and Liam and all that, they went to England, but Foxy went to Clermont.
Yeah, Stephen Jones as well went to Clermont, didn't he, for a little bit?
Again, at the start of his career, he was playing in a really bad Wales team.
Yeah.
But then he stayed around for when we got really good.
Yeah.
And then obviously somebody got injured on our Lions tour and he ended up being captain, didn't he? O'Driscoll.
Yeah.
O'Driscoll obviously broke his collarbone.
Collarbone, yeah.
And he ended up captain the next and scored in the second test, didn't he? It was a pretty dreadful Lions tour. We got battered, didn't we? But yeah, obviously that shows his quality, doesn't it? And that like Bosch pad.
The forearm guard. Yeah. If you had to a stereotypical Valleys bloke, right? You think of someone with a forearm guard, don't you? If you go to any sort of amateur sort of Saturday league rugby game up in the Valleys, there's going to be a bloke with a forearm guard there somewhere. So Gareth Thomas championed that for everyone there.
Yeah, good shout.
And then my other one, which was my main pick, was Liam Williams.
Yeah.
Man of the match in the final at St James's Park against Leinster.
Yeah.
And I just remember him having the game of his life. He was incredible. I remember he did a turnover on their own 5 metre line, and like two blokes came to try and smash him off. And he just stayed there, and he was just throwing himself into everything, and he was absolutely incredible that day.
He's so committed, isn't he?
And I was worried at the lack of Welsh players we had in there, to be honest with you as well. So I wanted to make sure at least two of them got shout-outs.
Yeah, and he was like, again, he wasn't there for a long time, but he was really instrumental, like you said, in obviously man of the match in that final, and he was amazing when he went. Like again, you could just see that quality when he went into a really good team.
Yeah,
he was in a really good team with Wales, but he was in a really It wasn't the best with the Scarlets, and then he went into that really good team with the Saracens. And
he could have easily hid. He could have easily just stayed on the wing, maybe scored a couple of tries. Not really, and he still would have looked decent in that star-studded team. But he was one of their best players that season, and typified by the man of the match performance in the final. To be honest.
Yeah, good shout.
Right wingers. Okay, so I got a few here. My first honourable mention, to be honest with you, I almost wasn't going to say him because I'm still scarred, Dav, from 2011, where I was a young boy, I was 12 or 13, I was sat in the Millennium Stadium, watching on the big screen that World Cup semi-final, where Vincent Clerc was down holding his face after Warburton absolutely melted him. And at the time, it was not a red card, right? For the rules at the time, it wasn't a red card. Now, don't get me wrong, nowadays, Warburton's having a 15-week ban, right? But at the time, it was fine, and he went down holding his face, and I hated him ever since that moment. However...
What a player.
What a player. Try-scoring machine. Absolute try-scoring machine. Everything you want in a winger. Just finished everything. He was a great player.
He reminds me a bit of like Penno now. Like,
yeah,
do you know what I mean? Just
definitely.
Like gets the ball. He's just a try threat all of the time, wasn't he? He's a bit like a poacher in football as well. Do you know what I mean? Like you get it to him in a little bit of space on the wing, and he's going to
finish it. Yeah, just so effective, efficient on that wing. Just try scoring machine. It's what you want, really, isn't it? So he did creep in there. Although I was shaking as I was typing that on my phone. It all came flooding back. Another honourable mention, Dylan Armitage. I know he played fullback and winger, but for the memes, this guy was carried by his teammates, man. Like his brother was quality, Stefan was brilliant, but this guy was in the most star-studded team, and
he did look good for a bit for England as well, though, didn't he? Like,
I'm not a big fan of him, if I'm being honest. Whether I just didn't like him because of like he was a bit of a nitty gritty player, and obviously I know he didn't mean to break Morgan Stollard's leg as well in the tackle, but little things like that. But I just thought he was.
He's a good player, man.
Yeah,
but like he wasn't one of the stars in that too long.
No, he wasn't, and it just made me laugh how like he always giving a big spurt, and he was literally just surrounded by all these stars.
Yeah.
So he crept in there for me. But my number one for my right wing was Josh Lucy.
Yeah, I had him down as fullback, but...
Well, he won it in 07, playing 12.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, for Wasps.
He's Welsh as well.
Yeah, he was playing 12. And that's one of the reasons I put him in, man after my own heart, as a 12 myself now. But yeah, hard as nails.
Yeah,
he was tough.
He won the World Cup with England, didn't he?
Yeah, won the World Cup. He was great defensively.
He was one of those players who was just like... English Premiership, like you knew he was going to score like most tries. He was just like an all-rounder, wasn't he?
He was.
Player. Yeah, I had him down as a fullback, but he was definitely in my conversation because I remember that Wasps team. And
he's playing 13 there. He's playing 13 there. He won it at 12. For those of you listening on Spotify, he's got a 13 shirt on playing for Wasps. And he won it at 12 the one time. He can play winger, fullback, so a man who can play in all different positions as well.
Yeah, he was a sick player.
Yeah, great player. So he was my number one for the right wing.
Okay, so I had down honourable mentions. I had David James, and David James didn't win it, but I think he's still third in the most tries scored in the European Cup.
Or still,
yeah.
And his prime was back in early 2000s as well, wasn't it? And late 90s.
And like. Yeah, he obviously played for Harlequins, Scarlet, Cardiff, Llanelli, Ponty, like a mad career. And I think he's another underrated player. When he went on the Lions tour, and he was a try machine on the Lions tour, scored in the tests. But I don't think he won it. So
big bloke as well, almost 6'5".
He's a really good player, man.
Yeah.
Another one I had, who I absolutely love, and you almost forget that he even played for Munster, was Dougie Howlett. So Doug Howlett, he had some amazing years at Munster. Again, these players, they come over, he'd had an amazing career for New Zealand, probably been one of the best wingers for New Zealand, and he came over to Europe and he just still had it. And he became like a cult hero in Munster. He's absolute wheels as well, like he was so quick. I used to love watching him play. Him and Rokethoko on either wing was just...
That New Zealand winger production line is just a joke, isn't it?
They don't even last very long, do they?
Yeah.
They're just like come, score, try a game, and then disappear.
Yeah.
But yeah, Dougie Howlett, that career he had at Munster, which was almost, again, some of these players, especially these players who were coming from overseas to Ireland or wherever, they have like this second sort of coming, don't they? And they're just ridiculous.
I remember Dougie Howlett as well. And we can see it on screen there back in the videos. But the New Zealand team came over. I think they were playing the Maori All Blacks maybe, and he stood on his own doing a haka back to him, which I thought was class, to be fair.
Yeah.
To do it back and like just to stand there and do that on your own. I thought I was like, oh yeah, this guy means business. He was.
But it's almost forgotten he was a Munster. Like,
I know.
He just sort of,
and he was a Munster stalwart as well. Like he was, such a big part of their team for so long. But it was so long ago, people forget.
So I had him. Vincent Clerc I had down, obviously, and the one which you are not displacing from my team is we watched his son win the Heineken Cup with Toulouse, and that's Emile Ntamak, and
the OG in Tamak.
So the first ever Heineken Cup final was played, guess, Millennium Stadium, or as it was then, it was still Cardiff Arms Park.
Yeah,
and it was Toulouse versus Cardiff.
Shout out to John Wigford, who played second row in that team. One of my best friend Connor's dad. Shout out John.
And Emile Ntamak was the captain of Toulouse. I went to that game, and it was the first time I think I cried over sport. Watching Cardiff lose to Toulouse in the final of the only chance they're probably ever going to have, possibly ever. I think Jonathan Davis was playing, Jiffy was playing for Cardiff. Yeah. And Emile Ntamak was captain. I remember watching him lift the trophy, and he was an amazing rugby player. Like, absolute wheels, massive bloke, good rugby brain, could finish from anywhere, proper leader. He was everything. And I remember back then for Toulouse, he was, and France as well, he was the main man.
From what I've seen, Emile was a bit before my time, but from what the highlight reels I've seen of him, he was an absolute gun player, wouldn't he?
You couldn't stop him, and it was just before the professional age as well. And he obviously was like, it was like a men playing against boys sometimes. He has to be in my team. I think, and as well, I think he is like that iconic European rugby player, winning the first ever one as captain in the Arms Park.
I think so, yeah.
So, Emile Ntamak, if you don't know, get to know. Because he is a quality rugby player.
He is legit.
And you can have one of your winners, because I'm having one of mine.
It's got to be one of the Welsh boys. I'll keep him happy. I'm going to go with Liam Williams.
Williams. I like Liam. Have I put them the right way? It doesn't matter. I don't know my wingers. You know your wingers. I don't care.
Yeah, they'll do. They'll do a job on either side.
They just run.
Yeah.
Right, fullback then. So, did you go first then? I'll go. Fullback. Like I said, I did have Josh Lucy down a fullback.
Yeah.
We've talked about him.
Yeah.
Rob Kearney. Obviously, Irish legend. Not the American strongman Rob Kearney, the rugby player. So Rob Kearney, obviously he was amazing in that Leinster team.
Yeah.
Again, another one. Ireland seemed to produce these sort of Mr. Consistent sort of players.
Yeah.
He was around for a long time.
Especially a fullback as well, I've noticed. Like Hugo Keenan now is just such a solid player. He won't let you down, but Carney under the high ball was incredible, wouldn't he? That's what he was known for.
Yeah.
The original bomb diffuser for me. He was great.
And I think did he go to the MLR or something? He played until he was about 40 or something.
He went to the Western Force in Australia.
Yeah, that was it. He was playing until he was 40 and he was still playing in the Super Rugby.
Yeah, and he was playing alright as well,
he was playing really well. He was probably not the most exciting of players, but again, he was so effective at what he did, wasn't he?
Mr. Dependable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I had him, but the one I'm going to go for, who is far more fun, is Cedric Heyman. Cedric Heymans.
Cedric Heymans.
He was, again, that Toulouse team.
Again, just screams Rugby 08 to me, it does, again. I always used to pick him. And I always used to pick him on Rugby 08 because he always had the orange Nike Mercurials on there.
Yes.
Yeah, and they were my favourite boots at the time when I was a kid, so I used to love it.
And he was just an out-and-out full-back, good under the high ball, good skill set, good runner. Amazing for France as well. I used to love watching him play. He's just one of those players you sort of, when they retire and they're gone, and you're like, oh my God, remember him? He was fucking sick, wasn't he, for so long? Probably not in the best French team either. I had Cedric Hamons.
He is a streets won't forget player, isn't he?
Yeah, and he's got like an odd shape to him. He was quite like short and squat, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was.
But yeah, he was blockbuster when he was on. He was proper blockbuster. A little bit like a lot of these French players. Like when they have a good game, they have an amazing game, but they have got a tendency to go a little bit missing. Like Emile Tamac was a little bit.
And I think with the French as well, it affects the whole team. If you notice, once one starts having a bit of a poor game, they all sort of drop off. You know, their crowd gets on their back as well, and it just becomes a bit of a shit show then.
So yeah, they were my two. Who did you have for fullback?
I had a couple of tasty ones here. I've got one. I had Rob Kearney down, but we spoke about him. But I'll come on to another one in my first choice in a minute. But I'm going to go with the honourable mention first. Now, this player was mainly a 10, but he did play a lot of fullback as well. But I didn't want to put him at 10 because I already had about 4 picks there who I wanted to speak about. And it's Joe Simmons, who was the captain of Exeter when they won it in the COVID year. Okay. And the reason I picked him is because no one cares about that COVID year. Yeah. It's so bad to say, but it never gets mentioned. Exeter winning the Champions Cup.
Have they won it twice?
It was just that once.
It is, again, it's like La Rochelle. I can't believe Exeter are European champions.
And he was incredible that year.
Yeah.
He was their captain, and he was being spoken about as the next England 10.
Yeah.
And he's moved to Pau now in France. But him and his brother Sam were just in that Exeter team were unbelievable, and it's just a shame because just no one cares. Yeah, literally, no one cares. It's bonkers. It's bonkers to me. Like everyone forgets they won it. Yeah. So I thought I'd throw him in there as an honourable mention. But my number one pick, and I think I'm gonna say this is my best shout.
Okay.
This is my Rhys Edmonds shout of the week, even though I'm here. Is Issa Nathewa, the Leinster fullback.
Yeah, he came up a few times, man. Like I wanted to talk about him as style points, and then I watched him a little bit, and I was like, actually, he wasn't the most exciting player, but he was just so effective.
He
was the start of that import Leinster team.
He was.
He stayed the whole thing, and he played every single game.
Yeah, Fijian international. I think he captained them for a while as well. Yeah. And he actually started over Carney in the 09 final.
Okay.
So even when Carney was going on that Lions tour because he had such a good year, and Nathewa started over him in the final.
He used to piss me off because he would always be tearing Cardiff up as well.
Yeah,
and
always score.
Always score. Always fucking kill everyone. And that is a really good shout, and I've thought about him a few times in a few of my lists.
Yeah.
But I've none have ever really fit, and I did think about him for this, but that is a shout.
Yeah, he was a cracking player. Again, like you said, if you just want to talk about effective players who just played their game plan so well, it's that guy there. He typifies it. He was brilliant.
He must have played so many games for Leinster as well.
Yeah,
he was around for so
185 times.
And 706 points. Did he kick as well then?
Yeah, he could kick. He could kick. So he won it a fair few times with it. With 09, 2011.
Got to go down as one of the best imports.
Yeah.
Of all time.
Easy. Great player.
He says he's from New Zealand, but I guess he was just born there.
Yeah, maybe.
Amazing. Yeah, I think we definitely go with him.
Yeah.
I used to like him and hate him at the same time.
Yeah. Hated how good he was.
Yeah.
That's what I used to hate.
That is our team. And I'm like I said at the start, let's not fuck this up. I don't think we fucked that up at all. That is filthy.
That is ridiculous, that team. That is premium.
That's winning World Cup players.
I think it would. I think one thing I want to finish on as well, Dav, I know we talked about that Heineken Cup final at the start, is I'd recommend anyone to go do it. You know, we went and watched Leinster Toulouse. We got no affiliation to either of them. We're just really big rugby fans. You know, we're Cardiff fans, Wales fans. Yeah. But that experience was incredible, wasn't it? And I'd advise anyone to just do it. Just travel somewhere, stadium you haven't been to, and go and do it.
And even like, I thought about Jack Willis because of that performance.
41 tackles.
41 tackles and stuff. Like, the final has And we've talked about those moments in this.
Yeah.
We've talked about the Rob Howley, the Neil Back moment. Going to a final like that, you're probably going to have a story to come out of it with, and it was amazing. Have you got a captain in mind? Because I'm edging towards the second rows,
Yeah, I think I am as well. I think I know you could easily say Johnny Wilkinson because obviously he was the captain of Toulon in that three-peat.
Yeah.
And that's probably my back's bias coming in. But I think for me, especially what I said about Paul O'Connell with his leadership, I would edge towards Paul O'Connell personally.
I know Sean's going to be angry because he still hasn't got over that Lions tour to New Zealand when he didn't have a good tour and we got absolutely battered. And I think he's completely shrouded by that
tour. If you look up disaster on the Urban Dictionary, it just comes up with the Lions.
And to be honest, that's a great team. If you want to send us some messages, who we missed out, who did we get right, who did we get wrong, I'm sure we missed out some big names.
Oh, definitely.
But that is your Heineken Cup 15. Nice one.
Cheers.
Oh, we bloody love rugby, so what do you think of this XP? Oh, we bloody love rugby, so what do you think of it?